We are creatures of desire. What we most desire is meaning. What makes us suffer most is a lack of meaning.
The Meaningful Life with Andrew G. Marshall. Marital therapist, author, and communications trainer Andrew G. Marshall invites guests from all walks of life to discuss what makes life meaningful.
Hello, I'm Andrew G. Marshall. Welcome to The Meaningful Life. We're available on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever you find your podcasts. How are you doing today? Perhaps it's a good day, perhaps it's not so good, and there are lots of issues that threaten to overwhelm you. Into all our lives comes negative experiences, which bring suffering. But if you stop and look at the not so good, how much is what is called mental suffering? For example, anxiety about what might happen, shame about what did happen, feeling worthless, fear of missing out or general dissatisfaction. But what if this suffering could be avoided? What if there was an antidote to inner turmoil? My witness today is PETER RALSTON, who is one of the founders of the consciousness movement in San Francisco in the late 60s and 70s. His latest book is called Ending Unnecessary Suffering: How to Create a Powerful, Complete and Peaceful Life. He's also the creator of the martial art, the Art of Effortless Power. Welcome, Peter. It sounds almost too good to be true, ending unnecessary suffering. So what actually do you mean by this?
Yeah, I guess that would sound too good to be true. Now, to be clear, and I think you were clear in your introduction, we're not talking about physical pain, like having a heart attack or breaking a leg or whatever. Okay, this is not what we're talking about. So if you suffer those things, fine. So if you enjoy suffering, be of good cheer. You can always break a leg. But as far as the mental stuff goes, yeah, it can be ended. Too good to be true? I don't think so. It is true. So it's not too good to be true. See, the problem is, if you want me to get into a little bit, is that nobody knows they can do that. Our cultures, our language, the way of thinking, etc., the relationships that we've created between us as humanity, selves and individual and blah, 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 all that stuff suggests or demands that the world is a certain way. And so that when you suffer, you have to suffer. So now when you're suffering this kind of mental, emotional stuff that we were just talking about, like the depression or the dissatisfaction or whatever, right? See, the problem is that you think that's something happening to you, and you're wrong. It is not something happening to you. It's something you're doing. And if you grasp it's something you're doing, you can stop doing it. That's the simple version. How's that?
Well, it sounds interesting. I'm not quite certain what you mean by it's something you're doing, because doesn't it just happen automatically that,
No.
I had some bad news recently. My aunt died and I'm sad. Is that something I'm doing to myself?
Yes, it is. But you see, on the scale of the stuff that, the suffering stuff that we really get into, your sadness is irrelevant. I don't, want to diminish your sadness. I'm just saying it. So we're sad sometimes. So what? Just putting that kind of in a different context. You being depressed, on the other hand, that's more serious. That occupies your life in a very dysfunctional way. Your sadness probably does not. Unless you're going overboard with it, and you can't live life, whatever. All right. And that being said, yes, you can get rid of the sadness. But it's like I stubbed my toe yesterday. I actually did. I stubbed my toe, and I can get rid of that pain. Now, again, that's physical pain, and we can go there too, but we're not going to, because that's not what we're talking about now. But I'm just saying I could, but so what? It's a stubbed toe. I can live with that. It doesn't diminish my experience really much at all. I go, ow, 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 okay, like that. Now, if I wanted to put attention on it, I could, because that's also something I'm doing. I know it's a little bit too far and we jumped into it too quickly. But in any case, I'm just saying some things may not be worth the attention, because you're going to live life anyway. You're going to do all kinds of stuff. And like you said, there's negative and positive. So you'll have negative stuff, but that doesn't mean you have to suffer. And especially doesn't mean you have to suffer all these stupid things that we suffer. See, now you just said mental, emotional. Well, you didn't say emotional. I said emotional, but you said mental, right? Mental. Who's doing the mental?
Me.
Who's doing the mental? Yeah. Okay. So you can stop doing the mental. See, look, you invited me on your show, so you're going to have to take what you get. Okay. So your aunt died, right? Now, if you never heard that news, you wouldn't be suffering now, would you? So you wouldn't be sad because you wouldn't know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to hear the news first, and then you have to recognize the news. Oh, my aunt died. And you have to remember your aunt. Oh, my aunt, that was my favorite aunt. Maybe not. And it's like, oh, she's dead. Oh, my goodness, I'll never get to see her again. Oh, woe was me. Well, woe was she. She's the one that's dead. But in any case, but you see what I'm saying? See, this is all mental contrivance without which that can't occur. See, so we're talking about this a little bit more, what I would say, existentially than people are used to. See, we're used to sort of a pseudo-psychology, but really pseudo-psychology because we just kind of make it up in our society as we go along, right? And it might not be as accurate as maybe a real psychologist would want us to be. But in any case, we're thinking psychology, and generally we stand on, and even psychologists stand on, it's sort of like it's what unfolds and we have no choice about it. Now, there can be some discussion about that, perhaps. But you see what I'm saying? I'm saying, no, it exists as that. It's not just like, you have some neurosis and you can work in therapy to get over it. I'm saying this is something you're doing. And if you can get responsible, if you can find it in your brain, so to speak, in your mind, if you can find where you're doing it, you can stop doing it. Now, most people don't think they can do that because nobody's told them they could do that. No, they don't discover it for themselves, etc. Right? So I'm saying, yes, you can. How do I know? Because I can do it.
So is it a bit like the idea of the second arrow, that life will send us an arrow? So, for example, my aunt dies, and that is pain, but we then get hold of a second arrow and get annoyed with ourselves for getting upset or annoyed with ourselves for stubbing our toe. So it's not just the original pain, but we then add a whole load of extra pain in. Is that the unnecessary suffering you're talking about?
Oh, no. Much more than that. But I do appreciate that. You say, yes, we do add on a lot. We do that a lot with physical pain. You may not have studied it, but I have. And when you have a physical pain of any kind, you probably will notice you'll add on a lot of stuff like you're worried, you're afraid, you're irritated, you're angry, you're whatever, That all doesn't help the pain. It doesn't make it go away. And what it actually does is make it worse. It really does. If you stop resisting the pain and you just let it be there, for example, I'm just talking about your arrow thing here, right? If you just let it be there, it's just that. And it's usually far less than all the stuff we do when we add on to it, the resistance, etc. Yeah? Okay. But again, that's the physical pain. I'm just using as an example. So yeah, we can do that emotionally. You can pile on and make it worse and worse. And you probably do, Now, if you spend time, like I said, I wouldn't care about your sadness, but myself, oh, I'm sad. Do I need to be? No. Does it matter? Not much. Okay, I'll be sad. It's not going to kill me or make it go away. Either one doesn't really matter to me. But see, like if you're, like I said, kind of obsessed and you're thinking constantly all day long about your aunt and missing your aunt, well, this is adding on. This is your second arrow, and you're making up scenarios about how terrible it is. Okay, this is add on, right? You think, oh, she's gone. I don't have that anymore. Without that, you don't suffer. I don't have that anymore. And that's a big theme. Oh, what I'm experiencing is not what I want to be experiencing, or it's not what I used to experience, or whatever it is. See, and so that makes this bad. Well, shut up about all that in your mind, and it's just what you're experiencing.
So you talk about the difference between a concept and experience. That seems to be really quite key to all of this. So explain to me what a concept is and explain to me what an experience is.
Okay. For anybody's interested, of course, if you read the book, you can work through a lot of this stuff, see. But in our dialogue, we're not going to work through all this in detail. To know the distinction between concept and experience is essential. But the juxtaposition of what makes a difference right now in our discussion and our listeners is most people don't know the difference between concept and experience. And they think a great deal of what is really concept is experience, like everything we're talking about so far. All of that is in a conceptual domain. I mean, except for me stubbing my toe. You see, it's all in a conceptual domain. And even the memory of me stubbing my toe is a conceptual domain. But we hold it as if it's an experience. And so we don't know, one, that we're doing it. That is ignorance. But we also, the way we hold it, you see, it's like when somebody's depressed, they hold it as real as the wall, as real as the chair. And I can't do anything about the wall or the chair or the depression. Wrong. The depression is conceptually derived. The depression is you're doing it conceptually. If you're not, it doesn't occur. Therefore, it's not like the wall. And people don't get that. Take it out of the wall, be responsible for what you're actually doing and grasp that you're doing it. Now, I understand. See, I've spent many, many, many decades. I'm an old guy, okay? And I spent many, many, many decades doing this kind of shit. I have worked with mind, and as you pointed out, I was also a martial artist, actually world champion martial artist. And I learned to control my mind in ways that probably most people didn't. I also did lots of contemplation and blah, 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 and study and investigation. I also have a background in physiology and anatomy and medicine. But in any case, so I've looked into these things probably a lot more than, most people. So I sympathize that all might be like, whoa, new, what are you talking about? I can control my mind like that, Yeah, you can. I'm saying you can. But you might have to do a little work. You might have to look into it. And the bugaboo is that your mind, ergo you, is going to keep telling you, you're going to keep telling yourself, no, it has to be this way. No, it has to be this way. You're going to come up with excuses and justifications, which are all, again, conceptual. Ergo, not necessary. You don't have to do that. You do not have to make an excuse. You do not have to have a justification for something. But you'll do it to defend the depression or defend the loneliness or defend the whatever it is.
So can you give us an example of some unnecessary suffering that you've had and that you've subsequently managed to work your way through?
Loneliness. I spent a lot of time alone. And in the past, I have been lonely. Why? Well, because they said, I'm missing other people. This is my experience, and I'm lonely. Now, that I was actually doing, and other stuff too. But the only reason I would experience being lonely first is, like I said, I'm comparing my present experience right now, breathing, being in a room, whatever, with something that's not occurring. Etch that in stone, because that's going to be a theme always in suffering, okay? It's something not occurring. Something not occurring. Fear, worry, always about something not occurring. And even depression. But, okay, don't want to go too far. But you asked me about me. Okay, so I was thinking, why am I not okay exactly as I am? So I made a shift, and yes, I am okay exactly as I am. In other words, I don't need another person to validate my experience in order to be okay and happy. I don't need others and or something not here in order to be complete and happy as I am. And so then I got, oh yes, I am complete and happy as I am, because I am. See? And look what I'm doing. Now, again, see, most people won't, like something like that, they won't recognize that they're doing it. They'll say, well, it's a fact. Look, there's nobody around. I'm lonely. No, you're alone. Those are different. And the only way you become lonely is when you do something else. What is that? That's the mind thing that I'm talking about, that we think of as experience. but it's not. If I don't do that, if I don't compare my experience right now with something else, that doesn't happen. Seriously, it does not happen. It cannot happen.
So the experience is that you're in the room on your own. The loneliness is the interpretation you put on top of that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then there's a big bugaboo experience, right? I'm lonely, and then like you say, you could go down there, lonely, and you go off onto that, and that seems like an experience. You're experiencing being lonely, but you're not. You're creating being lonely. Stop creating being lonely. Now, most people may not have the, courage to do that, which is to say, you kind of have to defy convention and your history and the way you've worked reality out and life and all that. This is going to put a kink in the works there, right? So you have to have a little courage, I suspect, and become responsible for the fact that you're actually controlling your own mind.
Now, that does sound a little frightening. I'm controlling my own mind. My own mind feels a bit like a monkey that leaps around all over the place most of the time.
Yes. Now, let's make a distinction because I understand. First of all, people tend to make, my mind as if it's separate from them, right? And then the mind does it to me. And I'd like to put a union there and say, no, you are the mind. You are doing that. You don't exist anywhere else. I know, except your body, right? So you really don't exist anywhere else. You say, I know we think we do and blah, blah, blah. That's another workshop, okay? But in any case, you see what I'm saying? But by making it my mind, like we try to have it both ways, right? I'm doing it, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm responsible for mine. I'm having the thought, oh no, this thought creeped up unbidden and it's doing stuff to me. See, it's like having it both ways. No, you're doing it all, both. Even the thought that is doing it to you is you're doing it. See, so we put you in the driver's seat here. That kind of takes the ambiguity out of it. It kind of takes the excuse out of it. Okay, but now I think I diverged. You were talking about how your mind did something to you, and I went on the tangent here.
You're saying that I need to control my mind, and I'm just thinking that's a little bit hard because I try to meditate most days, but I'm not necessarily particularly successful. I have a very active mind, and I find it quite difficult to stop it going to all of these dark places.
Oh, well, you should get some therapy. In any case, so you're conflating meditation with a particular result. And the particular result you're putting on meditation is obviously to stop your mind or be calm or something like that, right?
Well, I'm trying to just watch my mind, and I'd rather it didn't actually turn somersaults all the time.
Yeah. If you're trying to watch your mind and you watch your mind, then you're successful. Why say you're not successful?
I didn't say I wasn't successful. I was just thinking it's a bit of a hard task to control your mind.
But meditation is not about controlling your mind unless you say meditation is about controlling your mind. I mean, okay, let's leave your meditation alone.
Yeah,
okay?
So how do I...
It's the dark stuff that comes up that we're having trouble with.
Yeah.
Now, the dark stuff, right? First of all, let's make a distinction between, you brought up this monkey mind thing. In other words, your mind, it stays active. There's a reason for that. There's an existential reason for that. It's not just a psychological whim that your mind stays active. It's like your brain keeps your heart beating. You keep breathing all day long. You keep breathing. There's an existential reason for that, right? It's called survival. See, so now something is being produced by the fact that your mind will not stop. That if your mind stops, that whatever that is can't get produced. So you're going to have trouble in your meditation if that's your goal. However, you can do it. You can do it. But now, we're not talking about stopping your mind. Now, if you equate stopping your mind with ending suffering, you're going to have a hard time, just like when you're meditating, right? And these dark thoughts come up. So I have to stop my mind. I have to stop my mind. No, you don't. Just stop the dark thoughts. You know what I'm saying?
So the dark thought comes that I'm worried about something. For example, that I live in Germany now, and German bureaucracy is always a little bit of a mystery to me, and it's all in German, not unsurprisingly, and it has lots of technical terms, and my German isn't up to it. And I tend to worry about things that actually often turn out to be completely and utterly baseless. And that is suffering. And I would say that's unnecessary suffering, worrying about something that I have no control over, which I might actually be wrong about as well.
Well, that's stupid suffering.
Yeah.
It's more than unnecessary, right? You know? Yeah.
Okay. So how do we stop stupid suffering before we get on to unnecessary suffering then?
Well, stop doing that. Either one, like worry is a form of fear. And worry, like fear, is based on the future, which is to say something you're making up. As you noticed, it's something you're making up. You don't know what it is that's going to happen or is happening or whatever, right? See, but if you're worried about something, you're thinking, you're imagining. That's right. Most people, okay, yeah, all right. You're imagining that something bad's going to happen with this German stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. Fill in the blank. You're imagining something bad is going to happen. Stop imagining that. See, now, what good does it do to imagine that? Now, you'll probably have excuses and justifications, right? You'll say, well, that's how I handle it. That's how I'm preparing for it or whatever. No, you're not. You're worrying, as you've noticed. You want to handle it? Handle it. You want to get clear? Get clear. What is the rule? What is the law? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? You want to do something? Do it. Worrying about it doesn't do that. Worrying about it doesn't do anything except give you ulcers. And you don't have to do it. I'm not saying don't take action. I'm actually saying take action. If you can take action, because then it's done. And the action itself doesn't cause suffering. But imagining this future scenario, you don't have to do. And you don't lose a damn thing. If you want to say, wait a minute, I want to think about this and try to work it through. Good. Think about it and try to work it through. That's not worrying. You see the difference?
Yeah.
That's a little bit more like action.
So what are the mental activities behind most suffering?
Well, we've had one, right? And do we all remember what that is?
Worry, is it?
No, not worry. The mental activities behind suffering, because you made a generalization there. And so the generalization is there's something not occurring. And your mind is imagining something that's not occurring, like depression, like I'm worthless. Now, you might say, no, I have evidence I'm worthless. I really think I'm worthless. I'm a terrible person. Okay, who's doing that? No, but people have told me I'm worthless, et cetera, whatever. I can see I'm worthless. I know I'm worth deep down, I'm worthless. I mean, there's a lot of people who have that one. Seriously. No, you're not worthless. As a matter of fact, breathe. See, it's not possible for you to be worthless. Being cannot be worthless. Being is what is. So you are what is. Your opinions about that's different. That's something you're doing. Your thoughts about that, your memory, your history, all that kind of shit, your judgments, that's something you're doing. The isness, that's is. That's something you are. And are can't be wrong. It can't be right. It can't be worthless. It can't be worth anything. It just is. So do you see kind of where I go with this stuff? You know what I'm saying? A little different, not a little psychology here and there. So you can't be worthless. In any case, you stop that. The depression, stop that. Something's missing in life. I'm missing something important. How many people have that? Almost everybody. I'm missing something important. Something. And I'm talking again, like in those, not just your daily life. Some people have that kind of in their daily life. They're obsessed with it. Some people don't notice that kind of thing in their daily life. But, in those quiet moments when you're meditating, or when you're sitting alone, bored or whatever, and you go, something's not right. Something's not right. I should be more than I am. Life should be better than it is. Something like that. Okay, good. More than I am isn't. In other words, it's not occurring, except in your mind. Other than what I've got isn't. That is not occurring. So stop that crap in your mind. I'm not saying stop your mind, because you won't. It's a whole other thing, all right, to be able to stop your mind. But it's like I have a saying. Look, if you're going to live inside there, your mind, clean up your room. You may not be able to stop stuff, but you can clean it up. You can hey, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. Like you mentioned, I did a lot of martial arts since I was a child, and I'm an old guy now. I was very good at it. I beat everybody. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it's a fact. Everybody I fought, I beat in matches. I'm not talking about in bars, because I don't go to bars. So, but in any case, Why? Well, I studied fighting in detail, just like I'm talking about all this suffering stuff. I studied it in detail. What is it? And in reality. And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I have that background, because it kicks ass when it comes to all this spiritual, psychological dribble that we get involved in that doesn't necessarily kick ass. It's just good ideas. And it's guessing. And it's formulating a belief system. Okay. But now, on the mat, so-called, or in a fight, a belief system does not help. You get your ass kicked, you don't get your ass kicked because of what you perceive, how you perceive it, and the actions you take. So in that world, for example, being afraid of an opponent does not help. Could I be afraid? Anybody be afraid of an opponent? Oh, look, they're big and strong and ferocious looking. And, because I got a lot of guys that are big and strong and ferocious looking, right? And like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be afraid. No, does not work. Being angry really doesn't work. Being irritated, all that crap, that also tends to cause suffering, by the way. Okay. All that stuff does not work in real fighting. Real fighting, if you're going to be a master of it, if you're going to be good at it, you control your mind, which is to say you don't do that stuff. You eliminate the fear, anger, reactions, etc., because they get in the way. They really do. They really do. Because you have to perceive and respond faster than most people can think. And you're doing that, you control your mind. Why? Because it's effective. You're not doing it because it's a good idea. You're not doing it because it's, a belief system you're trying to apply to this thing. You're doing it because it works. Even if you don't want to, even if personally you go, but I want to get angry. I want to be afraid. Shut up. Okay. Do that on your own time. I'm busy now. Okay. I'm fighting here and I have to do this faster than light. I cannot have you interfering. So you learn how to do that. And so what I'm saying is it's effective. Now that's a different domain than most people, thank God. I don't think most people should be in the fighting domain, okay? But that's a different domain. But there's something applicable in the controlling the mind thing.
So to stop unnecessary suffering, we just say stop. Is it as simple as that?
It is as simple as that, but let me reframe it a tiny bit. You stop. You don't just say stop. You can say stuff till the cows come home. Is that just an American saying, or is that a British saying?
No, the cows also come home in England as well, you'll be pleased to know.
Okay. All right, they also come home. All right, anyway, you can say stuff, but that doesn't matter. You have to do it. Just like I said, in the fighting domain, and that's why I'm using that to help ground us in the reality, you see, of doing it. I can't say, don't be afraid, and then be afraid. And I could be afraid and then say, well, stop that. And I don't stop that. That doesn't help. I have to find where the fear is and stop it. Don't let it come up. It's irrelevant. It's not part of this moment.
So how do you find out where the fear is?
Well, you have to look into it. And I did. I don't know if this is on topic or not, but when I was young, in my 20s, I was working very hard to be good at martial arts because, well, I studied it my whole life. And I wanted to master it. So in my 20s, I was in this place once and I was working with some people, fighting, matching, pretend fighting. And my goal was kind of like your goal in meditation to stop thinking. Good luck. My goal in fighting was never get hit. Never get hit. And I realized I was afraid of getting hit. And I wasn't afraid of getting hit because I was afraid of getting hurt, because I was not. I was afraid of losing. See, to me, it was I didn't want that outcome. I wanted 100% mastery. I wanted 100%, you can't touch me. And it never happened. Out of like 100 blows, several would get in. Not many, because I was good, but still, some would always get in. And I realized at some point in this one time that, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid something's going to get in. Eliminate that. I stopped being afraid of losing. I stopped being afraid of failing. I stopped being afraid of getting hit. And instantly, I was not hit. The rest of the time, now from then on, it's like nobody could hit me. Because a shift took place in my mind, my brain, my perceptions, that allowed a sensitivity and an openness that wasn't there as long as the fear interfered. As long as that concern, that little worry, like you're talking about, as long as that was in there, it tainted or whatever, interfered with a really open, perceptive, responsive relationship. And then once that was gone, that open relationship, that responsive relationship, they couldn't hit me. See, so the abilities actually shifted. And so I was a fan of that. Anyway, I don't know if that helps at all, Ben.
Yeah, it is beginning to help. So we've got to stop the fear. We've got to understand where the fear comes from and stop that as well. Anything else we should be doing?
Everything that's relative to the suffering. The rest is up to you. That's your life. But as far as the suffering, yes. First of all, stop comparing your experience to other experiences that aren't occurring. That's mental imagination. And once you get your mentally imagining, you can stop imagining. You can. Because you can create a fantasy in your mind. You can imagine something, can't you? Right now, you could make something up and imagine it. And then you could stop imagining it. And usually, if you're not totally controlled with that, you just imagine something else. You see? And so you stop imagining that. Okay. If that's the best you can do, imagine something else, right? But I'm saying you stop it. Stop imagining. You're doing imagining, for example. Stop it. Stop comparing stuff.
So when you were frightened of losing, you were beginning to have a whole scenario about what it would be like to lose, and you were stopping doing that too.
I really didn't have a scenario. Well, I didn't consciously have a scenario. I wasn't thinking, it's going to be like it. No, it was just sort of there. It was almost in the background because I fought a lot. I wasn't I wasn't a newbie to it. And it's no, I'm not afraid. I wouldn't say I was afraid. I wasn't afraid of this guy, for Christ's sake. I can beat him. And I always did. But I still got punched. I was afraid of, I'm going to get punched, and now I'm not perfect, or some such thing like that. And that's in the background. You see what I'm saying? A little more in the background. And I noticed that, I'm afraid. Okay, stop it. Stop being afraid on any level.
You're afraid of not being perfect.
Probably. I wouldn't have said it at that time, but yeah, sure. Let's use that. That's what I was trying for, right? Perfection. Not being hit ever. Perfectly.
So you've actually got to look through several layers of this, haven't you, to actually see where all the fears are?
I have spent a lot of time doing things like this, yeah. But I don't think it's necessary. I wouldn't want to send people down a path of, okay, now, go down through every layer of possibility, like that. That's imagination. Just find what you're doing and stop doing it. How do you know you're doing it? Because it's happening. I'm worried. How do you know you're creating the worry? Because you're worried. Do you see that layer of experience that you call worry? Because that layer of experience is not the same as the wall, is it? It's not the same as, say, I'm hungry. It's not the same as, the pressure on your seat as you're sitting in the chair. It's a different thing, isn't it? Oh, where is that? What domain is that in the universe? Where is that? Stop that. I'm saying, and you are doing it.
Do we need to start some kind of practice, sort of regular practice to end unnecessary suffering?
No. I would recommend regular practices a lot, contemplation and stuff like that. Sure. But that's a different matter. I don't think you have to. You just have to stop it. See what you're doing and stop doing it.
So we're going to look at a letter from a listener in a moment, and we'll see how the advice would be suitable there. And that's upcoming in just a moment.
The Meaningful Life with Andrew G. Marshall. Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and visit our website, andrewgmarshall.com/podcast, where you can join our supporters club and unlock bonus material and other benefits.
Podbean, your message amplified.
Ready to share your message with the world? Start your podcast journey with Podbean.
Podbean, the AI-powered all-in-one podcast platform.
Thousands of businesses and enterprises trust Podbean to launch their podcasts.
Use Podbean to record your podcast.
Use Podbean AI to optimize your podcast.
Use Podbean AI to turn your blog into a podcast.
Use Podbean to distribute your podcast everywhere.
Launch your podcast on Podbean today.
If you'd like to participate in the program, you can go to my website, andrewgmarshall.com, and go to the section on podcasts, and you'll find a form to fill in, and that's what this gentleman has done. My wife had a serious talk and told me she loved me, but didn't feel emotionally connected to me. She didn't want to live the rest of her life without love and thought it was best for us to separate, probably leading to divorce. This is not what I want, not at all. So I took a long look at myself and thought about all the things I could do differently. We started couple counselling, and she has put any decision about the future onto hold for the time being. The therapy is going well. I think we're making progress. The atmosphere at home is a bit lighter. However, we are a long way from being out of the woods. My problem is that I worry so much. Any row could tip us into breaking up. I get into my head, I overthink, and I want to ask her for reassurance, which she can't give. I understand, but my brain is churning round the what-ifs and coming face to face with my darkest fears. It is complete torture. And just when I need to be calm and focused. Any advice? Peter?
Yes. Sure. Okay. But now remember, I am not a marital therapist. Okay. I am a ruthless contemplator and whatever, stuff like that. So bear that in mind. But as far as this, suffering goes, yeah, we can stop that. Now, this guy is probably going to have a hard time because you can hear the excuses and the need woven all the way through his letter. So that need is the bugaboo here. See, like the worry, he says, I worry. All right, let's go back to not just the worry, but when I was talking, for example, when I was talking about the marshal, how the, say, worry interferes with being effective. So first, that ain't helping. And I think he knows that's not helping. But he says, as if there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah, you can. You can stop worrying. But there's going to be excuses. Shut up. Stop worrying. Stop it. You're not helping here. Seriously. Now, let's consider, what are you afraid of? Because you're scared shitless that your wife is going to leave you. I mean, it sounds like it to me. Because you're not okay. You're not complete. You depend on her emotionally. Stop that too. Get complete. Be your own person. In your emotional domain and in your mind, be complete. Like I was talking about before. You say about with the loneliness, for example. Be complete. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's not that hard, but you're probably going to have to work on that, or, I don't know, read some of my books or something. But in any case, if you are complete as a person, you're not dependent on this other person as you are now. And your dependency is dragging the thing down. Say, it's not helping at all. Your need. Now, you probably both have needs. Actually, she confessed she has needs. And it's kind of strange because she said she loved you and then told you she doesn't love you. So her needs are a little bit confusing, okay? But in any case, she needs something and she wants you to supply it. And you need something and you need her to supply it. And she cannot. And neither can you. That's not what people exist for. She does not exist to supply your needs, nor do you exist to supply hers. Right? Stand on your own 2 feet, for Christ's sake. And then as 2 people, you can come together in love and intimacy. 2 is a partnership. 2, it takes 2. You don't get it all your way. There are 2 people. You can't have it. She can't have it all her way. You can't have it all your way. That's not a partnership. You can have it all your way if you go away and be alone. Then she can have it all her way too if she goes away and be alone. But she says she wants love. She wants intimacy. Ergo, she cannot have that without you or someone else. And you don't want it to be someone else. Okay, so now, what are we talking about? Getting the love and intimacy. Well, create it. Create the love. But I can't. Oh, grow up. Yes, you can. You did it. So you say you love your wife. And I'm sure you have a strong emotion in the case. It sounds like it in your letter. And because you're scared shitless of losing her. But see, dig it. You're confusing need, emotional need, with love. You need your wife. Now, do you love her? Do you actually love her? Do you love her independent of whether she's with you or not? Do you love her independent of if she fills your needs or not? All right? See, that's a question to ask. Because if you don't, well, then you don't really love her. You need her. That's different. And that can be a very strong emotion that sort of looks like love in this case. But I would get rid of the need. Now, you'll find that probably very difficult because most people do. Because you're desperate. Stop being desperate. Stand on your own 2 feet. Become complete. Become a person. Breathe. Be a person. And then you can interact with her as a person. And you can create love. And you can invite her to create love with you. You want intimacy? Well, she does. All right? Maybe you don't. You might want to look into that. Okay? But she does because she said so. She wants intimacy. What is intimacy? It's being intimate with another person. Do that. How do you do that? Do it. All right? Stare into her eyes if you want, whatever. But pay attention. And pay attention. Stop judging her experience. Stop fearing her experience. And get her experience. And invite her to get yours, whatever that is. Without judgment. Without any kind of judgment getting in the way or need. That's intimacy in communication. See? Or without communication. But pay attention to her. Listen, be open. That kind of thing. Genuine. Be genuine. Be honest, for Christ's sake. Because I'll bet right now you're not. You're desperate. And desperation doesn't lend itself well to honesty. Okay? See, now you'll probably fumble around. I'm sure you will. Okay? And you'll screw it up all sorts of ways. But if your heart's in the right place, if you're really trying, she might recognize that. Okay? And then if you do lose her, again, stand on your own 2 feet. Fella, grow up.
Well, if you do lose her, in the process, you will have learnt a huge amount about yourself and about relationships.
Yeah.
So you'll make a better relationship next time round. So it's a sort of win-win situation staying on this path. But I do have to say you are the toughest person I've ever heard giving advice to people, which is sort of shocking but interesting. Because, I mean, I'm completely the opposite approach to you. I'm sympathetic, but I think we need a combination of two things. I mean, I would say recognize those feelings, recognize those fears. You don't have to fix them. You can just feel them. Oh, I'm worried at the moment. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to ask her for reassurance. That's trying to solve the feeling. You could shift your attention to what could I do differently from how I used to do things in the past. In the past, I would have done A, and we know that A has brought you to this place. Well, let's not do more of A. Let's do something. Let's do the opposite of it. So if previously you would have walked away, it's probably now's the time to stop and ask questions. You know, I'm sensing that something's wrong at the moment. Would you like to share it with me? Rather than just getting into your head, because it might not be about you that the something is wrong. So what can I do differently is a really useful question. I mean, one of the things you can do differently, of course, is stop worrying, because as Peter has explained, that's not going to help, and divert your attention to something a little bit more positive, like doing something different that's going to be positive towards the relationship. And I do love the idea of really paying attention, because what connection is really being in tune with the other person, being connected, listening to them, being aware. So I hope that helps. So is there anything else that we should be aware of that we have yet to cover on the subject of ending unnecessary suffering?
Well, you were talking about approach. You said, well, I'm kind of the harshest.
I think I'm much more compassionate than you are.
Right. Maybe. You see, I think people confuse compassion with behavior, like you're telling this gentleman to change his behavior. Okay, but now what's motivating his behavior? If what's motivating his behavior is, again, this need stuff and desperation, and he's trying to desperately change, it's not going to be very useful. So to me, the compassion is what really works, not feeling empathy for somebody necessarily. Sure, feel empathy for them. But the compassion is if, like, for example, one of my teachers, he wants to be a nice guy. Actually, more than one. I have a lot of guys who want to be a nice guy, okay?
Yeah.
Or a nice woman. Like, he wants to be a nice guy, and he wants people to think he's a nice guy. So that means he bends over. Again, that little desperation thing comes in. And I said, when you're facilitating people, when you're working with them, get them to experience what's true for them, in them, say to them. You can't do that when you're worried about what they're experiencing. You follow me? It's like, because you're concerned with yourself, you're not concerned with them. Stop that. Throw away this being a nice guy stuff. It's useless. In social circumstances, sure, be a nice guy. You're a nice guy. Okay, cool. We all love you. All right. But when you're trying to help somebody, or we're trying to facilitate somebody, it's what works is where the compassion lies. So if that means hitting you with a stick and it frees you, good, I'll hit you with a stick. If it means hugging you and loving you, and that frees you, great, I'll hug you and love you. It's like what works, not being stuck on being seen as a nice guy. I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
See, so the compassion sometimes shows up in different forms. And I think the form isn't the important part. The important part is what really happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that the stick version can actually be just as compassionate as the hug version.
Very much so. See, like in my how do I say this? My work, which has been decades and thousands of people, generally speaking, the stick version, as we call it, works better than the carrot. And what do I mean by that? If you praise people, if you encourage them and you invite them, you say, oh, you're good. It's like dealing with a child and saying that the painting they did or the drawing they did is so good, and you put it up on the refrigerator. Great. For a child, fine. And what are you doing? Is the painting great? No, it sucks. Come on. Be honest. There are no Rembrandt here. Okay. You can barely make out it's a horse or whatever it's supposed to be, right? See, but you're trying to encourage them. Good. That seems appropriate. Now, is that appropriate in all cases? No, not if they want to be a great artist. Not too soon as a child. I'm just saying, using that as all right. You see, if you want to be a great artist, you have to get feedback. And some of it's not going to be what you like. So it's the lighting a fire in somebody's ass usually works a lot better because it gets their attention and gets them paying attention and doing something. Praising them and being nice to them doesn't. It keeps them where they are. Because, hey, why should I move? I'm doing good here,
You've certainly got our attention today, Peter. As a witness on the meaningful life, I need to ask you, what makes your life meaningful?
My work. My work, facilitating others and becoming more conscious. That makes my life meaningful. In other words, meaning doesn't exist. Again, it's something we create. Kind of like love. It's something we create, okay? So you want a meaningful life? Create meaning. Do what you think is meaningful, basically, if you can't create. But in any case, that's what, gives meaning to my life. You see, gives purpose to my life is doing the work that I do. And I love it. It's great. It's the best work in the world.
And how old are you now, Peter?
75. I'll be 76 pretty soon.
And so that you've had plenty of chance to find out what actually is meaningful for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gone through a lot of stuff.
So if you'd like to hear us talk about creating a purpose in your life, we're going to do that in the bonus material. You can hear the bonus material by subscribing directly via Apple or Spotify. And if you want to become a supporter of The Meaningful Life and unlock the bonus material that way, here are the details.
You've been listening to The Meaningful Life with Andrew G. Marshall. You can follow Andrew on Twitter, like him on Facebook, and please leave a review wherever you consume your podcasts. Making, editing, and distributing The Meaningful Life comes with substantial costs, and we'd like to ask for your help. Visit our website, andrewgmarshall.com/podcast, where you can join our supporters club and unlock bonus material for every program, send in a letter to be discussed by Andrew and his guests, and join a community of other people seeking to make their life meaningful. At the gold level, you get even more benefits. Production of The Meaningful Life with Andrew G. Marshall is by Michael Dooney. Social media by Madeleine Healy. Sound engineering and theme tune by Sebastian de la Luz Mendoza. And I'm Susie Colick. Please tell your friends and spread the word. Thank you.
Hey, it's your Sandman here. Why search around for a way to get rid of your old mattress? Listen to just how easy it really is. Your retailer can pick it up when they deliver your new one. You can drop it off at a participating Bye Bye Mattress location or contact your city about curbside pickup. Then your old mattress may be recycled into lots of new useful things. It's like a big old swipe right for the earth. Woohoo! Visit buyebuymattress.com for details.